There's no doubt about it. You ask any fan, and they'll say that there's a stark contrast between what Microsoft does and what Sony does in terms of PlayStation and, of course, Xbox. Now, one would have to kind of be a little bit clear when they decide whether one's good versus bad, whether they're both good, or maybe they're just different and good for that particular company. I feel like Microsoft really depends on the constant income and likes the services aspect almost like a third party would be, and Sony is kind of dipping their toes in some of that, but they never lose sight of the console gamer at the core, where that's where they make their money. Clearly that's where their thought process is, making sure that console gamers have everything they need and have exactly what they want, which is, exclusive content, exclusive games, and things like that. So I feel like they're much more traditional. And whenever you ask any Xbox fan, well, what's Microsoft's plan and what's this? A lot of them will say that, well, Microsoft's really kind of in the future with their plans, and they're kind of taking it from that sort of road where, oh, they're really much in the future, despite the fact that I've kind of pointed out that that's really been, if that's the case, then they're not really doing that well, considering they've been doing all this stuff for years now. When it comes to, they have the most powerful console for years, the cheapest console for years, Game Pass for years, Play Anywhere for years, crossplay's been enabled for years. So, that whole aspect where you have to buy the same thing as your friend really kind of thrown out the door. And that really helps Microsoft more than Sony, because, the thought process is so many people have PlayStations that they would just get what their friends or their family had, but because they could play the same games, and now that's not necessarily the case. But yet here we are, people are still buying and preferring PlayStation. So none of that stuff has really helped Microsoft, so to speak. With that being said, Sony is off to a killer start with the PlayStation 5. And even though you would think, well, the PlayStation 4 really nailed it, why don't they just do more of what they did there, But when you think about it, the PlayStation 4 wasn't this amazing thing that just killed it right from the start. The PlayStation 4 was this thing that kind of organically was good, but really was as great as it was and did as well as it was because Microsoft kind of shot themselves in the foot, right? Like, I don't think the PlayStation 4 would have been nearly as successful. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a success. I still think it probably would have sold 80 million units, but had Microsoft just did the natural progression from the 360 to the next Xbox, maybe did the Xbox 720 or, and then focus more on the hardware instead of the Kinect and no DRM and stuff, then we would have had a much more even next generation, and possibly even Microsoft coming out on top, because they were, the market leader in many areas and many aspects of the war, especially in America. They literally destroyed Sony in America, and now Sony is was back on top here, and now they still are. And so, this is something that Microsoft is going to have problems with continually, because, PlayStation is such this brand that people really associate with a great gaming experience. And I don't think Sony, or I don't think Microsoft, will ever be that. But, I want to get into this. Let's get started. Hey, everybody, it's me, Crap Gaming, back with another video. You babies, go ahead and hit that like button. You faces. We don't want no faces around here. We slap that like button, and we slap it hard, slap it all day. So anyway, PlayStation 5. Now, Jim Ryan recently did an interview, and now there's some excerpts of the interview that actually come out a little bit later than what we thought. The PlayStation 5 has been an unqualified success in terms of sales, but there's been some, shall we say, spirited debate about the system's early software lineup. Is Sony delivering enough big games fast enough? Should big games like Horizon Forbidden West and Gran Turismo 7 be cross-gen? Everybody's got an opinion, clearly, but in a new interview, PlayStation studio boss Jim Ryan seems confident that Sony was delivering a better early lineup on PlayStation 5 than they did on PS4. And as someone who was very outspoken about the PS4 lineup, especially early on, hell yeah, the PS5 has got a much better lineup. This is what Jim Ryan had to say. Yes, the output during the PS4 cycle was excellent, but the great majority of those games came in the second half of the cycle. We made a conscious effort to improve on this and that time around, and what we've seen thus far shows that we've certainly made progress in just a few short months since the launch of the PlayStation 5. Now, we have released incredible games and have so much more in the pipeline. And developers are really just getting started taking advantage of the technology in PlayStation 5. I can't wait to see what PlayStation Studios and our third-party partners create for the PS5. If games like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Returnal, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart are examples of what you can achieve in the first 6 months of the PlayStation 5, imagine what you will see in year 2 or 3. So it's obviously easy enough to make the comparison. Within roughly its first year, the PS4's lineup included Killzone Shadowfall, Knack, Infamous Second Son, Drive Club, and The Last of Us Remastered, all of which were PS4 exclusive. Meanwhile, PS5 will get Demon's Souls, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and hopefully Horizon Forbidden West. Again, for me personally, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The current lineup is so much better. Not only that, but just the ability to do like something with ray tracing and the frame rates and stuff like that we're getting makes it that much better to have in general. Elsewhere in the interview, Jim Ryan also seemed to indirectly address the recent spending spree of rival Microsoft, as well as reports that Sony is starting to become more conservative about what their greenlight, saying successful development is a matter of creative freedom, not throwing money at it. Sounds like pretty much a shot at Microsoft right there. This is what Jim Ryan said. Nurturing creative talent is not as simple as throwing money at it. You also must give them the freedom to be creative, to take risks and come up with new ideas. Just look at Ghost of Tsushima from Sucker Punch. That was not a game that we thought we were going to make, but we are not overly rigid or corporate with our talent. We want them to use our hardware as their creative palette. So again, some people might go, oh, well, didn't they just close down Japan studio? Not really. I mean, they repurposed it, and now Asobo team is there making games. And then they go, well, didn't they turn down Days Gone? Well, listen, maybe the pitch for that sucked. We don't know exactly what's going on, but we do know this. As a company, there's a such thing as creative freedom, but there's also, you have to have sort of a sixth sense as well. Like if you go back and you look at God of War 2018, funny story about that, Yoshida went to go play the original build, and he said he thought it sucked. It wasn't fun. So he had them go back and rebuild the game, and that's why we got God of War 2018, such a great game. Now, if that's Microsoft, do they have anybody that plays it and tells them, taps them on the shoulder, hey, this game sucks? Do they have that person? Like, I don't know that they do. So I think that that's probably the difference. You could be for the developer and creative freedom, but still have to have some kind of leadership at the end of the day. They can go in there and, let people know this isn't the best thing that you guys have done. We believe that you guys can do better. And I feel like that's probably where Sony's comes into play just a little bit better, in my opinion, with what they've been able to accomplish and what they've been able to kind of put out there. So, yeah, I do think that while it is cool that, they all tout up creative freedom and stuff like that, it would have been great, in my opinion, for Microsoft to go, okay, Ninja Theory, instead of putting out this game, Bleeding Edge, which we all know is bad, why don't we put those 20, 30 people on Hellblade 2 so we can get that out the door faster, right? Like, to me, that would have been, like, something should have been done, because Bleeding Edge wasn't it. Like, you could tell right away that game was not going to do anything for anybody, and it didn't. So we do have to kind of look at things like that and go, well, this is going to be very interesting how this kind of plays out and how things kind of go along. But also, at the end of the day, I do feel like Sony kind of gets it right with that mix of, okay, we let them have creative freedom, like Ghost of Tsushima coming off of Infamous, which was a pretty successful thing in its own right, is a bit of a risk. Or, you have even Naughty Dog, who, come off of Uncharted selling 20 million copies, and then they're gonna allow them to do, The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2 and do what they pretty much want. So I think that that's important to have creative freedom, but also to be able to have leadership to know when something isn't right or isn't going to work well for your target audience. So I think that that's equally important. And I also like that he throws kind of shade at Microsoft, that spending money doesn't really equate to good things. You can pump all the money you want into something, and if it's bad, it's going to be bad. So, anyway, I will link this. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with Jim Ryan that throwing money at stuff doesn't always work out that well? Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. Slap that like button. Rack 'em up. Crapgamer out.